Ever wondered how appraisers determine the value of a property? As the wheels in your mind start to turn, you might imagine a complex process involving lengthy calculations and an in-depth understanding of real estate trends. But what if I told you there was a simpler way, a fundamental method that acts as the cornerstone of the appraisal process? Intriguing, right? So, what is this method? Well, the secret lies in something called the principle of substitution. The principle of substitution is a cornerstone in real estate appraisal. But what does it entail? Let's break it down into simpler terms. Imagine you're out shopping for a new car. You have two options: a brand new luxury vehicle with all the bells and whistles, or a gently used car of the same model, just as luxurious, but at a significantly lower price. Which one would you choose? Most of us would go for the second option, right? The principle of substitution in real estate works in a similar manner. This principle suggests that a shrewd buyer would not pay more for a property than the cost of an equally desirable substitute. It's about finding that balance between cost and value and never tipping the scale towards overspending. If you can get the same value elsewhere at a lower cost, why pay more? This principle is deeply rooted in the economic concept of opportunity cost. In simple terms, opportunity cost is the cost of foregoing the next best alternative. Every time we make a choice, we are also making a decision to let go of other options. So, if there's a property that offers the same benefits as another, but at a lower price, the principle of substitution suggests choosing the cheaper one. So in essence, it's about weighing options and making a wise economic decision. But how does this principle come into play in the real world of real estate? Imagine you're an appraiser, and you're handed a task to estimate the maximum value of a property. Where do you even begin? Well, the principle of substitution is your starting point. For instance, you're assessing a charming 3-bedroom house in the heart of the city. You don't just pull a figure out of thin air. You start by looking at similar properties that have recently sold in that area. You find a match, another 3-bedroom house, same size, same location, just a few blocks away. But there's a catch: it's in better condition. That house sold for a hefty sum. Now this is where the principle of substitution shines. You know that no rational buyer would pay more for your property if they could buy the better conditioned house for the same price. So you adjust your value estimate downward to account for the condition difference. But you don't stop there. You look at another property. It's smaller, but in the same location and in similar condition. It's sold for less. This helps you solidify your estimate, ensuring you're not overvaluing the property. With each comparison, you're painting a more accurate picture of the property's value. You're weaving together a tapestry of real estate values, guided by the principle of substitution. The principle of substitution is thus a compass guiding appraisers in the sea of property valuation. So what should you remember about the principle of substitution? Well, the principle of substitution is a fundamental concept in real estate appraisal. It's based on the premise that a smart buyer would not pay more for a property than the cost of acquiring an equivalent substitute. It's the backbone of the appraisal process, providing a solid foundation for determining a property's value. At its core, this principle draws from the economic concept of opportunity cost. That is, the cost of foregoing the next best alternative. In the context of real estate, this means that the value of a property is inherently tied to the cost of obtaining a comparable property. Applying the principle of substitution in practice involves a careful comparison of similar properties in the market. Appraisers analyze the features, location, size, and other factors of comparable properties to establish a benchmark against which to assess the property in question. The principle of substitution also helps to explain why over-improvements don't necessarily translate into higher property values. If the cost of these improvements exceeds what a typical buyer is willing to pay for similar properties, then the value of the over-improved property won't rise proportionately. It's important to keep in mind that while this principle is a powerful tool in valuing real estate, it's not infallible. Market conditions, individual preferences, and other factors can influence a property's value beyond simple substitution. Remember, the principle of substitution is more than a method. It's the economic rationale behind property valuation.